Hello everybody, Brios here, and today's video is about the skill tree. The skill tree being a rather complex mechanism that many beginning or new players struggle with, and this video is targeted at that audience, mainly to help newer or beginning players work on the skill tree and understand it better. If you are a returning or a current player, it still might be of benefit to you. And even though there are some skill tree videos out there, noticeably Data's skill tree video, which is kind of ranty and negative if you can tolerate that, is still mostly relevant, but I thought it's a good time to create a new video for the community to understand the skill tree better. So for this video, I'm going to talk about the different skills, what they do. It'll be quick and concise as much as possible. Try not to go into too much details because it'll be super long. I'm sure you can figure out 2 plus 2 is 4, for example. I'll also go through what I call my idea of my system of how to choose skills. I hope you find that useful. And finally, I'll talk about some templates which I would suggest for the 4 different weight classes. That's because some people have been asking me for templates. They just want to use a template, copy paste, and then modify from there. Templates have a flaw because even in a same weight class, for example, this is a Niger, a heavy mech. It's a slow, big, chunky boy with lots of guns. It's very different from a Hellfire, which is a mobile hit-and-run heavy mech. But a template's a template and it's always useful, and you can modify it from there. So let's get started. If you go to skills on the left side, you'll see the skill tree. In the skill tree, it's broken down into 7 sub-skill trees. For example, firepower, survival, so on and so forth. You can only have 91 active at any one point, even though there are 200 over skills, 91 active at any one point. So choose accordingly. Let's quickly go through as quickly as possible all the different skills. In firepower, we have cooldown, total of 16 skills in total, 16 nodes rather, and this reduces the duration between shots. So if you have an AC 10, higher cooldown skills basically reduces the time between shots. Do take note, some weapons like beam lasers, machine guns, flamers do not benefit from cooldown because there is no time between shots. It's a press and hold kind of stuff. Moving on, we have range. Maximum of 15 nodes for range increases the range of your weapons. It may seem obvious, but what is a hidden thing about range nodes is that it also increases damage beyond optimal range. If you're firing medium lasers, optimal 270 for example, at a target 400 meters away, by getting range nodes, it increases the optimal and thus the maximum range. So the target at 400 meters is closer to your optimal than before. So the linear drop-off of your damage from optimal to maximum range, you end up doing more damage at a longer range. So it does translate to more damage at longer range. Highly recommended. Next, we have the heat gen nodes. We have 14 nodes for heat gen, reduces the heat generated by each weapon. Pretty obvious. Moving on to velocity, 5 nodes maximum of velocity. This increases the velocity of weapons that have projectiles like PPCs, Gauss rifles, autocannons, etc. Mainly useful if you're targeting mechs at a distance because your weapon projectile will take a while to travel there. This increases the speed, reducing the duration, and allows you to hit them more easily. So translates to damage at longer ranges because you hit more. Next, we move on to what I call contextual nodes. These are purple. Contextual means you have to have ballistics for purple. So it benefits ballistic weapons. We have magazine capacity, increases the ammo. LB spread reduces the spread of the ballistic pellets from the LB autocannons, which is good because you get a more concentrated burst. Gauss charge, really useful if you have a Gauss because it allows you to hold your charge, in this case 1.5 seconds longer. So you can hold it and pre-charge and wait for the enemy to come around the corner longer. So you can overwatch for a longer time before you fire. And do take note, this is a pro tip for you. If you're using Gauss or Hex, stuff like that, Gauss weapons, basically Gauss, sorry, not Gauss charge. By activating command wheel, you cancel the Gauss charge. So many pro players, they charge, they activate command wheel by just tapping the button and letting go, and you cancel the Gauss charge, and you can recharge it again. Next, you move on to UX jam duration. Decreases the jam duration for your Rex and UX, straight to the point. Next, we have the missile nodes, which are greenish. Missile rack for more missiles. Missile spread reduces the spread between missiles. If you're using clan SRMs, which spread a lot, this is a good bonus. Do take note, generally speaking, if you have a large baseline, a large number, and since skill nodes are percentage bonuses, a percentage of a large number is a big change. So clan SRM6s, for example, have a massive spread. So a 5% decrease is a lot. Moving on. Oh, by the way, it doesn't affect streaks. Streaks actually target location, so they don't spread. In whether it target left torso, right torso, or CT is a percentage chance for each missile. So missile spread does not affect streaks. Next, we have high explosive, more damage for crits when you actually do crit. Next, we have the survival subtree. In the survival subtree, we have 10 nodes of skeletal density and 10 nodes of armor hardening. Gives you more structure, and armor hardening gives you more armor. Structure is interesting in MWO. Other than being more hit points, it's useful to soak heat damage. So if you're going to overheat and take internal damage from overheating, skeletal density helps. Fun fact, if you're shut down, you take a lot less heat damage and it goes to CT. And if you're not shut down, you take more heat damage and it spreads out around all your components. And that's the purpose of overheat damage. 5 nodes here to reduce the maximum, or rather the damage you take from heat. So useful. And by the way, people wonder, should you get skeletal or armor? Why not both? And if you cannot afford both, if you have Mechs with, let's say, a structure quirk, then get skeletal. That will be a priority. Like the summoner has skeletal, or rather, summoner has structure quirks. So if you can only choose one subtree, get skeletal. If your mech has predominantly armor skills, armor quirks rather, then get armor hardening. So moving on, we have reinforced casing. Maximum 10 nodes. This reduces the chance of getting critical hits or being crit out. Useful, especially useful if you have Gauss, because Gauss explodes when they get crit. But you don't have to live with it. It's useful. Next, we have EMS. Contextual, so it's bright green. Contextual means you must have AMS, hence the exclamation mark, which I do not have. Increases damage for your AMS. Overheat, I've talked about it already. Next, you move on to jump jets. For jump jets, it's contextual if you have jump jets. We have 5 nodes of lift speed. That increases the jump jet boost, the initial boost. Useful to pop tut, because you boost a bit, you shoot and you fall back into cover. 5 nodes for up to a 15% initial boost. Vent calibration is also useful, 5 nodes for maximum, and this increases the burn time of your jump jets. So if you're pop tutting, both are useful. Which is more important is debatable, but given a choice, I suppose lift speed if you're pop tutting, so you can boost a bit, shoot and fall down into cover quickly. Talking about falling, shock absorbance reduces the damage to your legs when you fall to the ground. Straightforward. Heat shielding. This one decreases your heat generated from your jump jets only up to 60%, very significant. A very useful skill if you're jumping around, and basically essential if you're playing a pop tutting mech like the Snub Vulcan or stuff like that, because jump jets do generate quite a lot of heat. Moving on to operations, we have 5 nodes for quick ignition. This allows you to start up your mech faster after you shut down. So if you shut down from overheat, it just starts up faster. Useful. Moving on to improved gyros. Improved gyros is also useful. Basically, it decreases the screen shake when you get hit in the face. And we all know how irritating it is to get hit in the face by Rex and Lerms. So because your reticle shakes around, and improved gyros decreases the amount of screen shake. 4 node gives you a 70% reduction. Cool Run is a heat skill. Increases your heat dissipation by up to 5%, 5 nodes for up to 10% increase in the heat dissipating, so your heat bar goes down faster. I would say this is one of the first skills you should get. Heat containment increases your maximum heat capacity. This is very debatable, but some facts is that it's kind of a complex formula. So if you have more heat sinks, it's more useful. If you have less heat sinks, it's less useful. If you're bolting single heat sinks, like 20, 30, 40 single heat sinks, then it's really, really useful. If you're using double heat sinks with lower capacity, maybe if you have 16 or more, then get heat containment. Next, we have hill climb. This allows you to navigate terrain better. So when you climb a slope, your rate of slowdown is less, so you can climb slopes better. Really useful for lights because you can just zoom over terrain, but even assaults is useful because you don't want to get stuck on little rocks, you know. And then we have speed retention, which is useless. I call this a trash node because basically it increases your speed if you are late, which is moving on to sensors. We have 5 nodes of target info gathering, which increases the speed of your sensors getting the info for the enemy paper doll. Always useful, so it's a useful skill. And then we have seismic. Seismic is super useful. I would say it's nearly essential. But if you're not so aware to be aware of yourself, then it's not essential. Basically, seismic, if you are not moving, condition 1, not moving. Condition 2, enemy is within range, 200 meters if you have both nodes. And thirdly, if the enemy is moving, these 3 conditions, the enemy will appear as blips on your minimap. So really useful if you go to a corner and before you turn the corner, you check your minimap for blips. So you do not walk into like 6 mechs just waiting for you. Next we have, let's go to sensor range first. Sensor range increases the range of your sensors, kind of straight to the point. So you can get the target info for mechs at a further distance. And radar deprivation, super useful. These 5 nodes rate in this design, these are gated by sensor range. So get sensor range before you can get radar deprivation. Radar deprivation has 2 uses. One is what you see in the tooltip. It reduces the enemy's lock on you by quite a bit. If you have all 5 nodes, it's 80% reduction. So once you go behind cover, the enemy loses its lock 80% faster. So the enemy is locked on to you for 1 second if you go behind cover. Once you go behind cover, it's 1 second if you do not have any skills. If you have all 5 radar deprivation skills, instead of the enemy keeping the lock on you for 1 second, it drops to 0.2. Really useful. And next we have Enhanced ECM, which is also gated by the sensor range nodes. Enhanced ECM basically increases the maximum range of your ECM. So it basically allows you to stay further from, or rather nearer the enemy before they can target you. In short, if you have ECM, always get these 2. So with 2 nodes of Enhanced ECM, once you're about 350 to 400 meters away from the nearest enemy, you will not appear on the minimap. So it's useful. So it decreases the maximum range enemy mechs can target you. And of course, the tooltip also mentions about stealth. So it actually decreases the cooldown required before stealth armor can be reactivated. Next, we have the skills below. Target decay are for learn boats. Basically, target decay is the opposite of radar deprivation. So when the enemy goes behind cover, you actually have target decay, and that increases the time you hold your locks. So if your enemy goes behind cover, you can hold the lock for 3.5 seconds longer if you have all 5 nodes of radar deprivation. Moving on to 1 node of advanced zoom, is useful if you have problems seeing. Because it gives you a picture-in-picture zoom effect. Or if you're playing long-range mechs, it's always useful, allowing you to zoom in on the enemy. But do take note, people often use advanced zoom and they tunnel vision and lose awareness of their surroundings. So something to be cautious about. Target retention, these are trash nodes. Totally useless. Nobody gets it. Basically, what is it for? It basically allows the retention of your enemy information when enemy moves behind you. So once the enemy moves behind you, you can still keep the targeting info. Not so useful, to be honest. And finally, to auxiliary, we have a few sub-trees here. First, we talk about consumable slot. First SP you ever get in a mech when you skill it up is this. 1 extra consumable is useful, lots of benefit for 1 SP, and there are actually 4 of these purple consumable slot nodes, allowing you to have 1 plus up to 4 additional consumables. So that gives you more consumable slots. Maximum at the current default is 1 of each consumable. So maximum 1 cool shot, 1 UAV, so on and so forth. If you want more, you have to go to the left, bottom, or to the right. Let's talk about UAV. If you go to the left, you can get extra UAV, allowing you to pack additional UAVs up to a maximum of 2, 1 plus 1. Range, more range, pretty obvious, allowing the detection range of your UAV to be further. UAV duration allows your UAV to be up in the air longer. and that's for UAV. If you move to the bottom, you can get the cool shot. Enhanced cool shot allows your cool shot to dissipate more heat. Coolant reserves allows you to carry an additional cool shot. So instead of one, you can carry two. And cool shot cooldown basically allows you to fire the second cool shot 25% shorter. So you can fire two cool shots in a shorter duration of time. Moving on to strikes. These can be air strikes or artillery strikes. Advanced salvo basically gives you more damage due to the longer durations. So more rounds over a longer period of time. Expanded reserves allows you to carry an additional strike. So from one artillery strike, you can now carry two if you use expanded reserves. Enhanced spotting, this basically reduces the range, or rather if the airstrike is a strafing run by an aircraft, getting enhanced spotting shortens the strafing run. And if you have artillery strikes, it's a circle. It reduces the radius if you get enhanced spotting. Do take note, if you're taking airstrikes, do not get this, because normally airstrikes are used to hit mechs behind cover. So if the enemy is behind a rock, you target the rock, and you want your damage to hit mostly that one mech. So enhanced spotting spreads out the damage over a longer distance. If you don't have enhanced spotting, it spreads out a longer distance. If you don't have it, then it focuses it on the mech. So shorter strafing run. Airstrike, no get in simple English. Moving downwards, we have 4 nodes of capture assist. This is super contextual, allows you to capture points in conquest faster. Noob trap conquest, bit of a pro tip. Most of the time, games are won by shooting. Conquest game mode is fun. The cap points basically determine your aggression level. If your team has 2 cap points, you can be a bit more cautious in play, which is okay. If your team only has 1 cap point or 0, then you have to be more aggressive. And if you are 3 or 4 cap points, then you can be extra cautious because you have an advantage. So capture assist just helps your mechs capture those points faster. Let's just sort of share about capping. And finally, enhanced narc. If you do not have any narc, like my mech right now, this will appear and you cannot select. And what enhanced narc does, it increases the speed and duration of your narc. So they hit and stick to your enemy longer, causing more irritation to the enemy. So that's it. So that's a quick run through of all the skills in the skill tree. At this point, let me bring in 2 things to my video. First is what I call the design intent. Before I even start looking at the skills, I always have an idea that I call the design intent. That's how I want to proceed moving forward. To me, design intent comprises of 3 things. Firstly, we look at the characteristics of a mech. Does it jump? Does it have low mobility, high mobility, things like this. Number 2, we talk about these, or rather I think about the skills I want to prioritize on. Maybe I want it to fire fast, pop tart, run quickly, good jumping. Those are the skills I would like to prioritize. And thirdly, other skills I do not want to prioritize, my non-priority skills, where even though the mech could do it, you don't want to focus the skills on it. For example, maybe it jumps, but it's an assault mech, so you don't want to spend too many jump skills. And maybe it's a slow chunky boy, so you don't want to add too many skills on mobility because it's in a way, if you excuse me, not worth it at all. So that's the design intent. So talking about design intent, if you look at this night gear, for me the design intent would be it's slow. Night gear is a slow, low mobility mechs. It jumps, it has ECM. That's the number 1, the characteristics. Number 2, what skills do I want to prioritize? This is a shooty boy. I want it to shoot well, so focusing on all the heat skills, armor and skeletal density, because it's going to take lots of incoming fire. Nobody likes being shot at. And it has ECM, so I'm going to focus on ECM skills. Thirdly, what are the non-priority skills? Skills that I will not focus on. In the case of this night gear, the way I will build the skill tree is that I don't care about mobility. It's more of a turret, so I'm not going to get mobility skills. Yes, the night gear jumps, but it's not a strong point of it. It's just for me to clear terrain, so I'm not going to focus on any jump jet skills at all. It just jumps a bit. Who cares about jumping high, low, fast, etc. Things like that. At least the way I play the night gear. People might play it differently. So that's design intent. Next, we talk about the skill system that I would like to introduce to beginning players. And that's basically Number one, take the baseline skills, which I'll talk about later. Add those in for your weight class. Add in skills that are contextual. For example, this is a Dakar build, so you want to get Dakar related skills, maybe velocity, magazine capacity, stuff like that. And thirdly, add in skills that are useful. For example, this Niger, well, hill climb is not essential, but it's useful. So I'm gonna add it in. Heartbreak is really useful, so I'll add it in. Those are the useful but not essential skills. And then finally, if you're over 91, you just want to trim it down to 91 by sacrificing some stuff. So even though Heartbreak is useful, if you added it in, it is too many, we just reduce it by a bit. So to bring it to 91. So that's the skill system I would like to recommend. And now we talk about the templates. So like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, I'm going to recommend 4 templates for you guys. One for lights, one for mediums, one for heavies, and one for assaults. Yes, I know. In each weight class, there are several different playstyles. Take lights, for example. The Tournament Supporter Pack, TSP Irby, which is super slow, plays super differently from a Pirate's Bane. Yeah. But for newer players, these templates will be a nice start, I would like to think. And then you can modify it from there. So let's take a look at the different templates. So first, let's take a look at lights. Takes a while, excuse me, like all these things load. So the template I'm going to give you guys is for a Pirate's Bane, which is basically a very fast hit and run mech. Not much heat, and mobility is life. So that's the design intent. What do I want to do in this mech? I want to be super mobile. I want to hit, run, and fade away. So with that in mind, let's look at the skills I would recommend. Being hit and run, where mobility is life, I'm going to recommend all these skills. 24 SPs for all the kinetic bursts, all the heartbreak for maximum XL decel, so you can stop, turn, and run away on a dime, including anchor turn, that's the turn. So this allows you to be super mobile. And since speed is life, 5 nodes of speed to increase your speed. So it's a very fast, really agile mech. Third time I'll say this, speed is life. And survivability, I want to get, well, if anybody hits you, it'll be a challenge, but you want to survive longer. So maximum armor hardening, 10 SPs for armor. So structure, I don't need it because, well, it's a percentage bonus, and lights don't have much structure, so not a big bonus. So armor over skeletal for this. Moving on, we have operations. Cool run is always useful, so 5 nodes of cool run for the 10% heat dissipation boost. I don't want to get stuck on terrain. It doesn't jump, so I get hill climb. And I forgot to mention, I would recommend you get hill climb if you do not jump. If you jump, you don't need hill climb. You can just use jump dress to navigate terrain. And moving on to sensors, what I would consider essential is sensor range. Not because of sensor range, because radar deprivation is gated. So all these for 5 nodes of radar deprivation. So once you move behind cover, you can have the enemy lose its locks faster. So in this current situation right now, I have a very fast, very agile mech with lots of SPs in mobility. I have 10 SPs in armor, so whatever round that hits me, and shouldn't be many because you're super agile, you can survive a bit longer. And moving on, hill climb allows me to navigate terrain better. Cool run dissipates my heat better. And all this allows me to run into cover and our enemy will lose their locks. So some people will not even know where you went because, you just vanished. And to round off the compulsory, or rather the baseline nodes, I will get consumable slot. Just 1 SP. And that gives you already 53 SPs. So this is what I consider baseline. Let me just buy this. Yeah, might as well, right? Yeah, whatever, I'll just buy some. I'm rich anyway. Sadly not in real life. So that is 53 SPs for the light mech baseline. And that leaves you with 38 SPs for other stuff. Then we come to contextual. For contextual nodes, this is an ECM mech. So, and it has small lasers and machine guns. So lasers and machine guns, ECM. So in terms of firepower, if you're running lasers, get full laser duration. Normally I get heat, but with 4 small lasers, you're not going to generate much heat, so you don't really need heat gen, it's not essential. I'll get 2 nodes of magazine capacity for the ammunition. More ammo is always useful. Max cooldown, 16 nodes for cooldown, because 4 small lasers, you want them to fire fast, hit hard, and so on and so forth. Moving on to sensors, contextual because of the ECM. With ECM, you want to get all the ECM nodes. So 2 more nodes here. So that brings it up to 77. And as a light, you might want to get UAVs. So all the UAV skills, because you want to move fast, hit hard, pop a UAV, fade into cover, enemy loses locks. You have enemy covered by UAV, your friends can shoot them, etc, etc. And with 7 or rather 9 more SPs, you can choose a few more skills. In this case, maybe we'll go with range. 15 SPs for range, maximum range, allowing you to use your small lasers just a bit longer. Granted, the range is short, so a bit more range, well, helps. Then again, I'm over 97 right now. So at this point, you want to sacrifice. So firstly, I will sacrifice this. So that brings me down to 91, which is perfect. So that's one option. Or if you want less range, more skeletal density, you could also do this. So depends on your playstyle. Some people prefer survivability, hence more skeletal density. Some people prefer more range because they're more offensive minded. They want to hit the enemy at a longer range and fade away. So this is how I would build. So the baseline, all this is in a Google Doc. I'll put in the description below, a Google Sheet actually, so you can copy the template. So this is the baseline, added with useful and minus the sacrifices that you had to make. So that's for the lightweight class. For the medium weight class, I'm going to give you the baseline yet again. And yet again, I know there are many playstyles for mediums, from fast hitters to slow mechs. But yeah, let's take a look at the generic mech. So in this particular loadout, I got SRMs. But let's take a look at the baseline skills first. So what I would recommend for medium mech baseline skills, the starting point, 15 nodes for range. Medium mechs need a bit more range, they're not as fast as lights, so you can engage faster. So maximum range, 15 SPs. Heat gen, 14 SPs for all the heat skills, because you pack more firepower than a light and you're going to generate more heat. Talking about heat, 5 nodes for cool run to dissipate the heat faster. So 14 heat gen, 5 cool run is essential. And because mediums, they're bigger but much slower than lights, survivability is important. So max skeletal density and max armor hardening. I'm also going to add a bit of mobility. I will add 7 nodes of hard brick because you want to reverse into cover. Because sometimes you come around the corner and there's like 3 assaults staring at you. You want to go whoa, whoa, and reverse back into cover. 7 is useful. Seismic. Like I said, I consider this near essential nowadays. So 5 plus 2 for seismic. And for sensors, 2 SPs just to get the radar deprivation 1. This is the audio and visual blip on your mech once the enemy loses its lock on you. That's 70 SPs. So this is the baseline. Yet again, the skill code is in the Google Sheet, which I will share later in the description below. And now we add on from baseline, we add on the useful skills. Contextual rather. This is an SRM boating mech. Yes, I know the skills are not done, the armor is not done properly. I know, but don't worry about that, no. You should always front load your armor. Never put too much rear armor, you know. So anyway, that aside, it's a missile boat. So contextual skills for missile boat, we go to firepower, we go to all the range, all the missile nodes for missiles, so all the green, missile rack, missile spread, high explosive, 6 nodes there. Velocity is useful because it increases the speed of your missiles. So that's also contextual in this case. Survivability, nothing much I want to add. Mobility, I'm going to take anchor turn because in this Arctic Wolf, I want to vroom around, hit them, and turn and run away. It doesn't jump. In operations, I want hill climb. It doesn't jump this build, so I'm just gonna get hill climb so I can navigate terrain better. And with this, it brings me up to 89. So I've got 2 more SPs. If you're like me and you can't see stuff, you can get advanced zoom, but I'm not gonna get it. With my final 2 SPs, I'm gonna add maybe a cool shot. Just an enhanced cool shot. In fact, let me just change that. I'll get more range. Range is always useful. Sensor range, that is. Just 1. Not much you can get, you know. In fact, let me change my Mech. See? So these are the thought processes you should go. Yeah, I'm actually thinking how I should play my mech, what is useful, what is not. So with 2 cool shots, 1 cool shot rather, I only have 1. Just a bit more. It's useful. So 91 SPs. Yep. So for this is the skill tree I would build for this Arctic Wolf. So that is the, I'm not going to save this. That is the baseline, which I think I forgot the consumable. Add a consumable to baseline. That is a baseline, adding the contextual skills, useful skills added on, and you minus any sacrifices. In this case, I didn't sacrifice any because I planned it out nicely. And next, we move on to the heavy mechs. Heavy mechs are often described as the ships of the line. In modern day context, they're like main battle tanks or cruisers, destroyers, if you are more inclined to the Navy. And in this particular case, I'm going to give you the example of this, the Timber S. But first, of course, baseline skills. Oh, they're still filled up. Let's just strip this guy. Alright, save. Alright, let's take a look at the baseline skills for this Timber Wolf. For heavy mechs, in fact, not just Timber Wolf, heavy mechs. So the baseline skills I would recommend for any heavy mech will be max range. You are slow, you have lots of guns, you hit the enemy earlier, hit them longer for more damage. Range is always useful. Full heat gen. And in terms of heat gen and cool run often go hand in hand. That allows you to have less heat, dissipate the heat faster. Because your focus is on firepower. You're heavy, you're not a light. And next we have survivability. Because you don't have that much speed, max skeletal, max armor, just soak the damage as much as you can. And as usual, 1 radar deprivation for a blip. And yeah, so audio and visual blip when the enemy loses his lock on you. Also seismic, which I consider near essential. Yet again, I've explained this what it does. So especially if you're heavy, even though you have a lot of armor, once you go around a corner and you find an ambush, yeah. So this prevents that. Prevention is better than cure. And always 1 node of consumable. That gives you 1 extra consumable. Normally I get a strike and a cool shot. So that's 64 SPs for your baseline. Let's take a look at this skill tree, this mech. This mech is lasers, so it's a laser vomit timber, a very standard build. So for contextual skills, our weapons are skills suited to this mech, which jumps and has lasers. So for the design intent, it only has 1 jump jet, I forgot to mention. So I'm not going to jump around. So I'm not going to get the jump jet skills. Those are not a priority. So my priority will be firepower. So in terms of lasers, I'm getting full laser duration, decreasing the burn time of the lasers. So I hit them and hit them hard. They don't have time to twist, or they do the damage before they twist, or the enemy moves into cover. So those notes there. I don't need any of this. Laser vomit benefits, by the way, from not getting any of this. So just 4 for laser duration. Survivability, nothing yet. Mobility, I'm going to get anchor turn. Heavies are slow. The heavier you go, the lower your deceleration. So heartbreak helps. For the reason I mentioned earlier, you don't want to turn around corners and die stupidly. And talking about turning, I'll get anchor turn also. These are useful. Jump jets, I could get jump jets, but it's not a priority. This will be useful, but I'm not going to get it yet. Next is operations. A quick check, I have 23 double heat sinks. So heat containment would be useful. So I'm going to get that. I'm also going to get hill climb. so I can navigate terrain better. My one jump jet can help me with terrain, but since I have some SPs, let's consider this useful, so I'll choose that first. I also get all the radar deprivation, advanced zoom, those are useful. And it's a hot mech being laser vomit, I get all the cool shots. With all this taken, I have 102 SPs, so I need to cut down 11. Excuse me, I'm human and I cough. So firstly, let's go backwards. I'm going to zoom out first. Sensor range. I'm going to cut down to 1 radar deprivation. I don't need to have the enemy lock loose fast on me. I have the armor of a heavy mech, so I'm going to sacrifice this. It's not a priority. So that brings me down to 94. I have 3 more SPs to remove. So moving on to here, I'm going to remove all this from the auxiliary skill tree. So that gives me 89 SPs. So 2 more SPs. So with 2 more SPs, what can I get? In fact, look guys, I forgot I have ECM. So I should be getting enhanced ECM. These are contextual and I forgot about it. So now I'm up to 95, I must sacrifice 4 more. So since I jump, this is useful but not essential. I'm going to remove these 3 hill climb nodes. Rely on my 1 jump jet for navigating terrain. With this in mind, I'm a 75 tonner, I know terrain will be a problem. So when I navigate terrain, I must remember to use my single jump jet to boost my vertical height a bit better, so I can navigate terrain better. And with that removed, I'm down to 92 SPs. Heat containment, I'll just remove 1, and that makes it perfect at 91 SPs. So this is the skill tree I would do for this laser vomit Timbie, this particular pattern. And that's a case study on how to use, yet again, the system I recommended. Baseline plus the contextual nodes, adds in useful nodes, and make some sacrifices. And now we come to the final weight class, the assault weight class. So for assaults, you are basically a battleship, a slow, chunky boy with 16-inch guns just meant to blast the enemy, shoot the enemy till they die. You're not going to dance around, you're not going to do fancy stuff, you're just going to, well, dance. So with that, I'm going to take out my trusty 2CD, my Marauder 2CD, and show you the baseline skills. So for assaults, the baseline skills I would recommend would be max range, 15% boost in range is good. Max heat gen, to fire as often as I can, reduce the heat from my weapons. Heat gen often comes with cool run, so max cool run to dissipate the heat faster. Being an assault, I would say skeletal and armor hardening are essentials. Almost everybody gets it because you can't really dodge the fire. You just have to soak it most of the time, and this helps. Moving on to operations, sensors are near essential because you're so slow. If you're moving or rather you stop, either you're a sniper or something, or the backstabbers come to you. Seismic gives you a 200 meter range. You can see the blips as they approach you. Super essential. And for baseline, I will include 1 consumable slot here. So with that, you have 62 SPs for the baseline skills for an assault mech. So now we move on to contextual skills. For contextual skills, this is a Gauss ER large ECM. It doesn't jump, so you don't need jump jets. It has a total of 15 double heat sinks. So this is basically a Gauss vomit mech. Lasers, Gauss, and ECM. So in skills, if you have ECM, always get the enhanced ECM systems. So this helps a lot. I'll get 1 node of radar deprivation. I don't consider that essential for assaults. Really useful, bordering on compulsory, but I decided not to get it because, you know, if you are playing a long range build, you don't really need to know. But yeah, anyway, so contextual nodes, back to that. 2 nodes of ECM, 1 node of radar deprivation. This build isn't that hot. 2 ER large, 15 double heat sinks, Gauss. So in terms of firepower, in the context of Gauss, I get more ammo via magazine capacity, and Gauss charge allows me to hold my charge longer because pre-charging your Gauss, holding it before you shoot the enemy is always useful. 4 nodes of laser duration for the ER large lasers. Contextual for gauze because it suits gauze. 5 nodes of velocity to increase the velocity of your gauze rounds. Yeah. Would this be contextual? Let's put it as useful. I would get useful nodes. What is useful? Reinforced casing to reduce the hit chance on your, or the crit chance on your gauze rifles. This mech, well, it doesn't overheat. Wrong version. Gauze and ER large doesn't overheat that much, so I'm not getting this. Mobility, moving in and out of cover is useful, so I'll put it as useful. Operations, 15 jump jets, 15 double heat sinks, you don't heat containment. And before I continue, I'm already up to 98 skill points. So right now, I need to make some sacrifices. I forgot advanced zoom, by the way. Advanced zoom is kind of useful, especially if you are an assault. So yeah, so 99. So now I need to remove 8. Let's go into the sacrifice phase of this skill tree. I need to remove 8 skill points. So there goes Heartbreak. It was useful, but I don't have enough SP, so sacrificing that. With that, I have 92 SPs left, skill points left. So I need to cut down to 91. So I need to remove 1 SP. I'm going to remove reinforced casing because, well, it'd be nice for my gauze not to be crit. But in the interest of SPs, let's sacrifice all of it. And put in a cooldown, cool run, because I want this mech to fire faster, because it's not so hot. I would like to get Mechs cool run also, so you can see the iteration process I'm going through. Kind of long-winded, but you get the idea how it's done. So 91 SPs, could I sacrifice something for those? I guess I could sacrifice skeletal density for this. 3 more from there. Well, just 1, why not? So in this case right now, let's take a look at this skill tree right now I've created. Max cooldown, I can fire my gauze and ER large faster. It's not a hot build. Not that hot anyway. Max range, max heat gen, max velocity for my gauze, more ammo, I can hold my charge longer, ER larges benefit from that. Armor hardening, more armor. Nothing in mobility, makes me a turret. Operations, I have cool run, 10% heat dissipation. I will have problems navigating terrain, no hill climb, no jump jets. Gotta be very aware of that when I play. Seismic, super useful, so gotta be careful when enemy approach me, I can see them. 1 node radar deprivation, in case enemy loses his lock, I get the audio visual blip. ECM, because I have ECM. Advanced zoom, because I have range. And 1 consumable slot. So that's it, 91 SPs for this skill tree. And that's for the Marauder 2CD long-range sniper build. So as you could see, the baseline contextual skill idea is really useful, and then you modify from there, adding useful skills and then sacrificing, and it's an iteration as you think what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Do take note, the actual baseline skills, I will post the skill tree in the skill code rather, in an Excel, or not Excel, in a Google Sheet, and I'll share it with you guys. So there it is guys, the baseline skills for light, medium, heavy assaults with 4 case studies, which I shared with you how to design using the system of baseline plus contextual plus useful, and then making sacrifices right at the end. It's a kind of a cycle, it's not a straight linear thinking process. And I did showcase 4 different mechs in 1 per weight class. Of course, change the skills as appropriate, now that you know what all the skills do. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. With that being said, I will end this video here, and I hope this skill tree video has been useful to you guys. So adios everybody, have a good day, and I hope you guys find this video to make your game experience a lot better.